What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Ryobi 4-cycle trimmer, and the problem is I just picked this trimmer off the curb and I'm not sure what's wrong with it. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this trimmer, however it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. I'm not sure how you feel about 4-cycle trimmers, but I'm not a big fan of them. There's a definite trade-off. One, you don't have to mix your oil and gas, but if you want your engine to last, you have to replace the oil once in a while. Now, I've never worked on a Ryobi 4-cycle, but I'm sure it's like the ones I've worked on before. The second trade-off is that you can't turn them on their sides like a traditional trimmer, so they're usually set up for attachments. Now, this one is missing its attachment, but I'll put one on there when I know it works. Now it's in pretty good shape. The fuel lines look brand new and the primer bulb is still clear and even has gas in it. If we take a look from the side, we can see there's even gas in it, so it means that someone was trying to get it running before giving up on it and putting it on the curb. So since it has gas in the tank and they put it on the curb, I'm pretty sure it doesn't start. I'll take a look at the gas in a minute after I check to make sure there's oil in the engine. So the oil level looks great and it even looks fresh. I just came to this realization. With the great condition this trimmer is in, it wasn't used very much at all. Either the previous owner didn't use it much because it was too heavy, or it broke very soon after they bought it. So after taking the fuel cap off, we can see the gas in the tank and the filter at the bottom. Now the gas smells fresh from the pump, which is great news, and there is some color to it, but that shouldn't be a problem. Also, make sure the filter is still connected to the fuel line. If yours is off the line, then you'll need to inspect the carburetor for a clogged internal screen. Let's replace the fuel cap and try starting it and see what it does and doesn't do. So it didn't even try and start. Now it could be flooded at this point, so I'll try clearing the flood and see if that starts. To clear the flood, squeeze the trigger and put it into the run position and pull the rope, and hopefully it tries and starts. So it still didn't start, so now I want to physically put some gas into the carburetor's throat and try starting it again. If it starts and runs, then we have a fuel delivery issue from the carburetor. However, after removing the filter cover, we can see the carburetor is leaking gas. With this much fuel coming out of the carburetor, I probably don't need to do this, but I still want to put fuel in there anyway and try starting it. Well, it still didn't start, and more than likely we'll need to also replace the carburetor. I'm beginning to question if this engine is worn out, but I know there's oil in it, so I don't think so. An easy way to test it is to slowly pull on the rope and feel the engine fight back. Now, 4-cycle trimmer engines seem to be very easy to pull versus their 2-cycle versions. This one is fighting back, so I'm pretty sure the rings aren't worn out. If I need to, I'll use my compression tester later on to find out, but right now, I want to check to make sure that we have spark from the ignition system. After taking the top cover off, I'm very surprised to see a cast aluminum valve cover and, more interestingly, a timing belt and a plastic cam gear. If we take a closer look, we can see the belt is probably only a 1/4 inch wide and it's barely on the gear. I'll just push it back into place and continue checking the ignition system for spark. So here's the spark plug, and it's wet with gas, so we know the carburetor is delivering fuel to the engine. There's not a lot of carbon buildup on it, so I think we can still use it. Now to test the ignition system, I'll put the spark plug back on the wire, hold it against the valve cover, and then pull the rope a few times, looking for a spark at the tip of the plug. So luckily we have spark, and that means we have all three major components for this engine to work: fuel, spark, and compression. Now since it's a 4-cycle engine, I want to remove the valve cover and check that there isn't a problem with the valve train. So we can see the rocker arms resting on the valve spring retainers, and the arms themselves are positioned as they should be. Over here is the camshaft, which I'm happy to say is made out of metal and not plastic, unlike the cam gear. Now, since this engine has a timing belt, I need to check to make sure it hasn't jumped timing. To do that, I'll need to carefully put a long tool in the spark plug hole so I can feel the piston and pull the rope slowly till the piston is at the top of its travel. After putting the engine to top dead center, I can see we have a problem. This is a timing mark and it's in the wrong position. It's at the 3 o'clock position and it's supposed to be at the 6 o'clock position. That means that our timing has jumped and that's why this engine isn't starting. I'll slide the belt off and reposition the cam gear, then I'll put the belt back on along with the spark plug. I then want to try starting it again. Now the bigger question is, why did this jump timing to begin with? Hopefully after we get it started we can see if there's any other problems. Another reason why this engine might not be starting is if we don't have enough compression. If the oil level was low and it was ran like that, then the engine would wear faster than it was supposed to. To find out, use a compression tester and get a reading. A number over 70 psi would be great, and if it's lower than that, then it might not have enough compression for the engine to run. So it didn't start, but it might be flooded, so I'll try starting it without the choke. Now it did stop by itself, so there's definitely a problem with the carburetor, but at least it started and ran. Now the idle speed was a little bit low, so I'll turn the idle screw in a bit and try starting it again. This time I won't choke it because it seems to flood the engine, and see if it starts right up. So it stopped by itself yet again, and as you just saw, it was revving up, but it seemed to be running out of fuel. So it revs up to part throttle, but then there's not enough fuel at wide open throttle. What I usually do is try adjusting the carburetor to deliver more fuel, but it didn't seem to make any difference this time. Now after putting it back together to try to retune it, it stopped yet again, and after taking the cover off, I found that the timing belt had come off the gear again. So apparently there's something going on at the crankshaft timing gear. I hate to say it, but I'm not looking forward to doing this job because I'm not sure if it's something that's fixable. More than likely, this is the reason why this trimmer looks as good as it does. It stopped working very soon after it was bought and then put away. So my question is, what should I do with this trimmer? Should I tear it apart down to the crankshaft and find out what the problem is, or am I just wasting my time? Remember, this is my trimmer now. The previous owner gave this away. They must have come to the same realization that it's simply not worth fixing, and they would rather put their money into a new Steel or an Echo trimmer. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.